And I just remember waking up like just
Freezing.
confused why it was so cold and my feet were freezing, man.
Those are the bad times. When you get up in the morning and you can't get the generator to start and it's cold out, scariest
What
thing
do
is
you have
hitting a deer out
against
there.
deer? Why do you keep hitting deer?
They're attracted to me.
Do you like deer meat? All right, perfect. Wayne, can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
All right, man. Look, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. I know it was last minute. I appreciate you making the time. You know, as I told you in that message, you know, we're trying to get this on the road show kicked off and just really speak with our drivers and speak with drivers in general. I think you guys have unique stories to tell. You know, especially with our fleet, it's so diverse. We probably, with our 100 or so drivers, we probably have 40 different nationalities, you know, represented in our fleet. So it's a really cool experience. So Wayne, just tell us a bit about yourself, man.
I was born in South America, Guyana,
Okay.
and I parents migrated in 1980s to the United States.
Okay.
So I came and I went to high
How old
school
were you
here.
when you came?
Say it again.
How old were you when you came here?
Oh, I was 15.
15. Okay. So
Yeah,
you spent a lot of your youth there then. How was that
yeah.
transition? What's the main difference?
Well, after puberty, you know, your accent doesn't really change much, you
Right?
know, and
Okay.
another big change is coming from the tropics to an environment like where we are right now in Detroit area, and it's cold. It's 27 degrees out here, so that was a big difference.
Do you go back ever?
Oh yeah, I just returned from spending about 5 weeks there.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's it like there now? What's life? What's the biggest difference in everyday life?
Well, how should I say? Let's start with the weather. It's 86 degrees year round. And you have here in America an economy that is based on the US dollar. So 40 hours and you're good. Whereas there, you know, you probably, you know, build your own home maybe, and you're not too much tied into a mortgage situation.
So if I went there, what's the biggest you know, everyday type of thing, that the biggest culture shock that I would experience?
Well, the weather, food, travel.
Food good?
Yeah, food is pretty good. I mean, you know, you have Indians and blacks in the population, so you have a lot of spices coming from India,
Uh-huh.
and you know, a lot of the different African treats. I guess strong provision for food and stuff like that. You know, so there's a big difference with the food. You know, you have this African tone, overtone, and then you have this Indian. You know,
Yeah.
menu on the table as well.
What about the people? Is there differences in people?
Well, we were formerly a British colony, and you know, as far as anything the British put their hands on, you know, they took people from here and there. So half the population is Indian, half the population is Africans.
Okay. What made you go into being a professional driver?
Well, I started off after high school, joined the military, did 2 years, went to college, came out and did lab work for quite a while. And after COVID hit, you know, I got my hand on some money, bought a van, and decided to retire then and hit the road. You know, it's moving from one stressful environment to somewhat what I feel was less stressful, but it's just as stressful logistics.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you came. You've been with us since September of 2021, right?
Yeah, I have 2 yearly logs and half a year log.
Yeah. I remember when you came, I think it was right when you were joining, you were in the office and we were kind of speaking and getting to know each other a bit.
Yeah, I
What's
remember
been
that first. I remember that first day. I was trying to impress you with how nice my van looked.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's driving is I mean, obviously it's not as physically demanding as some jobs, and it's not even as mentally stressful as other jobs, you know, because you're not dealing with splits, you know, you're not dealing with high pressure as much as you are with some other things, but it definitely has its own challenges. I think one of the things that is spoken about the least is the mental health aspect of it. Like being on the road alone with yourself, with your thoughts for 7 days a week, 30 days a month in some cases. Just that aspect of it, I think it's not really spoken of much because this industry is comprised of mostly, middle-aged men or whatever, and that's just not a topic that's discussed. But it's definitely something worth considering and thinking about, because it's not easy to live in a box, a metal box on wheels, and just kind of go through it. How's that side of it been for you? I mean, do you agree with me that's something, or do you have a different perspective?
100% I agree with you, and I can add to it. When I first started, I thought of this industry as well. I can, get in here and make a lot of money. But then when
Yeah.
you get out the road and you spend so much time on the road with the other drivers in the street and you face road rage that you never really experienced before, having not done so much driving, from your previous career, the loneliness comes from driving through states for hours on end, and all you see in the summertime is just corn and wheat.
Mm-hmm.
It is somewhat all when you first got started, but then after a while, oh my goodness, I have to get a dog. So
Yeah.
I got me one dog, and then at my age, she wanted me to run around behind her too much. So I got her a companion, and that started the trouble. I mean, they brought, they took away the boredom from the entire industry or my experience out here in the road, and but that brought on some other problems. I forgot to, well, I never really got him spayed,
Mm.
and well, where that goes from there. But as far as adapting to the life on the road in the metal box, the dogs, alleviate some of that boredom. Uh, Everything else, you're just gonna have to give it time to get over whatever problems you may face out here. I mean, there will be a lot of complaints, but then, it's part of the industry. You'll feel one way today, but if you don't get over it, you wouldn't be safe out here.
Right.
So I've learned to, after year one, year two, to, hey, don't let it get to you. You know, Move on, and we will progress a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the whole world is changing in that aspect, man. Life was tough back in the day. I mean, I reflect, I think about the life that my grandparents lived, and it's like you compare it with the life we live today, and it's almost the average person back then. If you compare their life with the person living the most difficult life today, it's almost like they lived a tougher life. And I would say, especially here in the US, I would say in the US, people don't really know what hardship is. I come from Bosnia, and there was a war in Bosnia in the early 90s. So much of my childhood was in war, and it ended when I was 9. It began when I was 5 or 6. So it was a devastating thing to the country, to the people, to the future of the country. And it's like things like that, people in the US, thankfully, thank God, don't know what it's like, and many other things. So,
It is rough when you think about it. I am ex-military, and
yeah.
I was told that going to Desert Storm and Desert Shield was a good thing. But as you get out of it and get over those experiences, you realize that I am to differ from what I was told. I had to experience it to have my own conclusion as to how things are and how good we have it here too. Like for instance, the telephones went out 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and it was crazy how comfortable we are here, not knowing how the rest of the world is really, striving for survival. Look how difficult our world became just from the telephones going down. I It was like 2 hours of craziness. you
But
know?
it reveals how unprepared we are for some sort of a catastrophe. Hopefully we don't
Yeah.
have to experience it ever, but it's scary, how unprepared
Yeah.
and not to get into too much gloom and doom stuff, but it's like it's a matter of days before we implode as a society if something were to happen, because we haven't really dealt with inconvenience and hardship. And for most of America, even the lower middle class, we have access to more or less the same um, conveniences than most other people. We may not have a private jet, but most people can still get a plane ticket. We may not have the newest iPhone, but most people still have a smartphone. Um,
We
so
all
you've
have
been with, go ahead.
we all have a technology experience, but some just pay extra and some
Yeah,
just pay what we have to.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing about the U.S., man. It gives you every opportunity you could hope for, but it puts you in its little hamster wheel, and you're going to be in that hamster wheel spinning until you have no energy left, and
Spun
then
out.
it spits you out, and it gives you every opportunity. If you want to have a rags to riches stories, you can do it. If you
Yeah.
want to have 10 houses, go for it. If you want to have the newest car, go for it. It doesn't discriminate based on, I mean, of course, it's an imperfect society like everything in the world, but systematically, I don't think it discriminates against
Those who
any
are willing.
those who are willing, right? Because
Right.
you can find examples of every culture, every religion, every
Mhm.
background that's made it.
Yeah.
But it comes with at the cost of sort of losing your life, your livelihood, your spirit, your soul. It turns you into this consumer, machine.
I asked myself, what am I out here doing this for? And the only conclusion is that, I at some point don't want to be stuck out at age 65 doing the 9 to 5 like my parents are. I mean, I want to be able to say that in 5 years from now, I can be a millionaire. I want to be able to say that the situation I'm in today would change tomorrow. And that goes to saying where the point you're trying to make, whereas it puts you in this economic wheel. It's like today I climb one rung on the ladder, and tomorrow I want to get higher and higher and higher, and just we keep forgetting to live.
Never ends. It never ends. You
Yeah.
look at
So
you look at Jeff Bezos, you look at Elon Musk, you look at billionaires, and they work harder than me and you, man.
yeah, and they still keep going, trying to get more. It's just the society we're living in. You
Yeah.
know. So my
And
goal here, my goal here is to come in and reach my goal. Come
what
in.
is your goal?
Well, I have a few investments, and I do believe that my money should work for me. I
Sure.
my last venture was a project I have in my country. I went down there and finished up on some construction work I had started a few years ago. So we all have a big dream, to some point or some time, not be in this situation. This we did the 30-year mortgage thing already, and it's time to retire and enjoy life. So if you put all our time into just working and working and working and accomplishing, we will eventually spin out, like you earlier mentioned.
Yeah.
So my goal is to accomplish a few things that I will be comfortable and not have to work to pay rent and food and buy stuff like that. The basics that I need to survive.
Do you hope to
That's
live
pretty
in
much it.
Guyana one day, or
Well, I look at everything as an investment, whether I invest here or there. The only outcome is to not work when I'm 65. So investing here or in Guyana, we have to go based on how the pebbles fall, I should say. Where we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but we have to be prepared some kind of way. You know, if things don't go my way today, the way I want it to go, then tomorrow it may go my way, you know. So I have investments here in America and I have investment in Guyana that, you know, it depends on how things go. You know, I'm prepared to, you know, live there in Guyana or, you know, enjoy life here in America, but I don't want to work past 65. That's my
Where do you
goal.
feel at home? Do you feel at home in America or in Guyana?
Well, in America, you have the financial the finances are much better here in America. In other words,
Sure.
I can put in the time and come out with a positive outcome. Whereas in the third world countries, let's put it that way, you know, we're still developing. Whereas, you know, we are trying to catch up with the rest of the world and things aren't as, or money aren't flowing as easy as it is in America. Whereas, okay, I want this job that can give me this much money. I can just put this much time into studying or, you know, the time into getting a career path where I am comfortably financially.
But where do you feel at home?
In this van right now, I feel at home in the present. If I am in South America, I'm at home there. If I'm here in this van, I'm at home here. You know,
That's a
if I'm
good
fighting
answer.
with dispatchers, you know, it's part of life. I'm at home. I'm at home in the present.
I like that. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
How did you find BHX?
Well, you know, like anything that you get into initially is you have to start off with small strides. And I got into this industry and I was quite excited by what I put in and what I got out of it. And you know, you talk to all the other drivers that you meet out here in the field of logistics, and everybody's got a story. But
Mm-hmm.
then, like in life or in marriage, if I were to hear everybody's story and jump from here to there to there to there, I would never find a safe ground to stand on. Being here at BHX, I have high times and low times like with anywhere you go in life, you know. But I refuse to leave and go somewhere else, not knowing what I'm going to put up to or what I'm going to run into. You know,
Mm-hmm.
here I have good times where I know how to deal with the good times, and I have bad times where I know how to deal with the bad times. And I'm not leaving. I'm here because I don't know how to put it. I guess the good times are overwhelming when you compare the bad times that go along with the industry. Not blaming the company, but the industry of a whole. You know, the industry of logistics. You know, it can be quite complicating sometimes. You know, make you want to beat up on yourself unnecessarily, trying to
Yeah.
meet deadlines and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah. What has been the best of those good times? When you say good times, what do you think of?
Well,
Every interaction with me, is that what you think of?
that's that's always a good thing when the captain can say, "Hey, you know, let's spend some time together." But eh, good times, you know, good times. Like for instance, being able to go to the bank and say, "Hey, I have accumulated this, and I want to make a next big step into some form of investment." Money sitting in the bank gets you nowhere, you know. So I make investments 10K at a time.
Mm.
You know, I think money sitting in the bank is just too much of a waste. So the good times come when you can make that investment portfolio look better.
The financial freedom.
Yes.
What
You
about
know,
the bad times? What
the,
comes to mind when you think bad times?
the bad times, like for instance, I set the van up to be somewhat, I should say, off grid. I have battery system. I have a heater system, and it's all governed by a generator. So last night I decided to settle in because it's going to be like in the low 20s during the night. I started a generator and I got sleepy and I decided to turn it off before I, you know, go to bed and then leave it running, you know, waste my gas. So I turned it off, you know, prematurely instead of getting my batteries fully charged. I went to sleep. So I got this morning, it was like 10 degrees and the generator would not start. Luckily, my batteries were, you know, somewhat charged from last night's running. Those are the bad times. When
Yeah.
you get up in the morning and you can't get the generator to start and it's cold out and things not just going right.
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was on the road, I had a van with a bench seat up front, and my back was full. The cargo was just taking up everything. There was no place to sleep in the back, and it was cold. So, you know, being a driver, especially early on, you don't have the luxury to get a hotel and stuff like that. If you were to do that, every time you wanted to do it, you would quickly go out of business and go broke. So I slept on the front on that bench, and it was like middle of winter, and I believe I was in Minnesota. And sometime throughout the night with my foot, I must have hit the window button or whatever, and the window got lowered. And I just remember waking up like just confused why it was so cold, and my feet were freezing, man. And I looked up, and that's what I did. I lowered the window or whatever. But a lot of dispatchers, they've never been drivers, so they don't understand. They've never tasted what it's like to be a driver. It's like you can tell somebody what something is like, and you can show them, and you can get them closer to feeling it. But it's almost like if I'm trying to describe to you what some Bosnian dish tastes like, if you've never had it, man, even if I'm the most articulate and well-spoken person in the world, you're never going to be able to really taste it and feel it. Similarly with dispatch, we can get them closer to understanding what it is you guys deal with on the road. And we do that. We show videos, we speak with them about it. We encourage them to speak with drivers. And, compared to other companies, I would say our dispatchers, we provide an environment where they do have a much deeper understanding and appreciation to the drivers. But I spent about a year on the road myself. And then even after I got off, there were still a number of cases where I had to jump in and do a load, kind of to cover a driver, especially early on. And yeah, I mean, it's tough even driving just one night, where you're dealing with fatigue and you're dealing with
in the deer.
The thing I always hated the most was going through construction areas, especially when it's like when it was rainy and the road, you'd have that reflection, and the road would be tight because they've closed off a section for construction or whatever. And it was just such a nightmare, man. It was just such a nightmare. I absolutely hated it.
There's so many stories and experiences that when you ask the question, the first one that comes to mind is the most recent experience. But like you mentioned, you drove for a year. I mean, my first year, it was rough, going up to Canada and in a blizzard condition, and the vehicle just not operating right. You get stuck in the cold, you have it. I didn't have any heater, and these are things that make you say, oh, I'm not doing this. Why am I doing this? But then, you get through the experiences and you just say, well, hey, I survived, When I look back at my bank statement, I say, well, I got over that one. I guess I can get over worse than that.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest growth you've had professionally in that 2.5 years you've been with us? How's the Wayne of 2024 different than the Wayne that came in 2.5 years ago?
Well, the first 6 months, I was elated about the business. The next year, I was beaten up. The second year, by the time I get to 2.5 years, I said, no, I need to take a time off. So I took a time off and I got some other things done. And I think that has changed my whole attitude. Before I left for vacation, I kept telling myself, well, I can get over it. But until you take a time off and take a break from the industry, you come back, you say, well, hey, all the things I cry about in the past in this business, is just bogus. If I let the things that bother me in the past bother me today, then I would not be a success. And I want to, this van is going on 3-4 years old, and I don't think it's got much more. And I hate to put much more money into it before I get rich. So I am taking my experiences and taking care of my baby here so we can endure for a whole another 2, 3 more years. I hopefully the van will probably give me another 200,000 miles.
Yeah. What's been your most your do you have a favorite load that comes to mind?
Um, the one that pays the most money in a 3 day run.
I like
I
good
can
answer.
run 3 days and make the money for a week. I don't care whether I get a load right away or not. I say, okay, well, I guess let's leave the rest of the week for the other guys who haven't made the amount of money I made in the last 3 days. So I relax. Not every week is going to be a fruitful one.
Hmm.
So, if I make half the money I made last week for the next 2 weeks, I know the entire month is going to accumulate to one big picture. And that's the picture I look at. The entire
What's
month, not just today, next week, or last week. I look at the big picture. What is the entire month going to bring me?
what about the most difficult or the scariest thing you've dealt with on the road?
In life, they say 3 strikes, you're out. I hit a deer. I hit a deer 3 times.
And
The
you're not
first
out.
time, I had like about $10,000 worth of damages. The second time, I fixed my radiator, and the third time, I just really bumped him, and I really felt like I bumped him. But I still got a dent from the third time. Never really fixed that third patch yet. But that's the scariest thing, going down the road at night and a deer come out of nowhere, and ends your vehicle, ends this career, ends everything, And for that reason, I have full coverage insurance in this van, besides whatever other insurance is needed.
Yeah.
Scariest
What
thing
do you
is hitting
have
a deer out
against
there.
deer? Why do you keep hitting deer?
They're attracted to me.
Do you like deer meat?
Yeah, I have eaten it. Yes, I have
Okay,
eaten
is it
it.
good? I've never eaten it. I've heard it's good.
I have eaten it. I have. I lived in the South. I went to school in the South. So there are, the avid Southern Americans are hunters. So
Yeah,
we're gonna run into a friend or two who have had some deer meat in their refrigerator to offer. Yeah. So I have had some deer meat.
good, good. I've never had it. I've heard it's good. I gotta give it a try.
Yeah, it's not as fatty as the lean meat. Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer driving at night or during the day?
Well, it doesn't matter. Night, you don't see the obstacles as much as you do during the day. But my whole thing is, I drive all day, but when it gets dark, I need 4 hours. You
Hmm.
know, so as long as I can fit that 4 hours into my schedule, which here lately, I have been spoiled. Here I am on a load, and I have the entire weekend to myself. I feel guilty.
Do you like these type of situations where you're like right now it's Saturday we're speaking and I know you've got a load that delivers on Monday. Is this sort of the dream having a decently, long size load over the weekend?
Well, I hate to be sitting around every weekend. If it's
Yeah,
cold, it's more expensive because, you got to keep the generator and the heater going, you
yeah,
know. But I much rather be moving. But,
sure.
I must say, I have no preference, yeah. As long as at the end of the month, I pay my bills and I have this savings that I can, probably put away some money, you know, I'm happy with it. Not to say that immediately faced with a criterion, uh, I may not be upset and have to cool my composure, but we're all humans. Yeah.
Right.
So, I am pretty much open to running at night or running a day or a long run or a short run. But, there are times when we're going to complain when complaining is not even necessary. But I look at the big picture.
What's been the biggest change in working with us since you joined?
Composure. Back to the most recent incident. I got frustrated after trying for a few hours to figure out why the phones weren't working. And I got on the phone, and the voice at the other end of the phone responded so respectful to my being upset at the situation. And I learned something. I learned. I put it this way to save some time. I learned that getting maps on Wi-Fi and carrying on after, you can still move on. Now, if the voice on the other end didn't have that composure that allowed me to accept that, hey, hey, the world is falling apart, and you're not helping me. I felt like I was being helped.
Good.
And it made me tuck my tail. You know, it made me realize that I was being upset for nothing. And being upset wasn't going to help the situation. And the
Right.
voice on the other end of the phone realized that, hey, you're going to get over this attitude here in a minute. But here, I am here to help you. And, help was given. I felt like shit after, you
Yeah.
know?
It's like I
So,
said, man, we all understand, and we speak about this in the office all the time. Being on the road for just 48 hours, man, and having to drive all night, and then the next day having to deal with road rage, and then having to deal with slippery, icy roads, and then having to deal with a phone outage while you're running late to an appointment. It's a lot of pressure a driver goes through, and we understand that. Last question for me, Wayne, is any parting words to other drivers, other professional drivers, whether they're BHX or anyone else?
we're all humans. We run into problems out here every day in, day out. But the whole thing is to maintain your composure. You know,
Yeah.
if you blow up, expect that there was going to be a rebuttal at the other end. So, I mean, sometimes you might think that you're all right and that your argument may be the correct one, but I mean, it's never that way all the time. So, I mean,
Cool.
even in road rage, guy flashed at me, get behind me, want me to get out of his way because I'm going too slow. I get out of his way, and say, hey, carry on, somebody else going to deal with you down the road, So,
Right.
I mean, maintaining your composure is the best advice I can give any new driver out here. You're going to have bad experiences, but we can't let the bad experiences have us making foolish decisions.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you so much for
maintain our
doing this,
composure.
man. I appreciate you making the time.
My pleasure.
Anything else from you?
Make me rich.
We'll continue to work on that, my friend.
All right, man.
All right. Thank you for your time, Wayne. Have a safe rest of your trip up to Quebec, right?
Yes, Quebec.
Nice. Have fun. We'll talk soon.
Take care. Bye now.